Binance is on the investigation or this alleged investigation, etc. And then there's always, well, there's fraud everywhere. The block, which we now understand is pretty much owned by SBF, writes a lot of negative articles about Binance. That's okay though. So it actually makes us more resilient. And in the last couple of hours, with Sam Bankman-Fried's arrest, I think people generalize, right? So if you get hurt by one bank, you're gonna think all the other banks are bad. If one politician is corrupt, you think all politicians are corrupt. But the fact is that just because one bank is bad doesn't mean all the other banks are bad. And just because one politician is bad doesn't mean all the other politicians are bad. But people generalize. So people get hurt by one exchange and they lost money there and they generalize that. And that's just human behavior. So that's fine, right? So people want to withdraw their funds from Binance. Great.
Today we have CZ, Binance's CEO, talking about the scandal involving Mr. Wonderful Kevin O'Leary and Sam Bankman-Fried after the collapse of FTX. The past few days have been crazy with all the accusations made by Kevin O'Leary, saying that it's also CZ's fault that this Black Swan event happened. In front of the Senate, Kevin said CZ should be held responsible for the collapse. Reason being he backed out of the deal to buy FTX and sold all his FTT tokens, leading to a major liquidation of the company. So, Changpeng Zhao hosted a Twitter live stream talking about this subject and how Binance was involved with FTX in the first place. Not only that, but he also replies to some of the questions that are on top of everyone's mind, including how he would benefit from Sam's arrest and the company's collapse as they were their strongest competitors. So pay close attention until the end. This will be a fully packed video.
Regulatory clarity is important for adoption, especially positive regulations. Regulations like Dubai, France, Bahrain, these places, the regulations are very favorable towards innovation and the pro-business environment. So, and with regulatory clarity, businesses or industry players we will know what we can and cannot do, which makes adoption easier, and users figure out what they can or cannot do. Banks can work with us. We can integrate with traditional financial industries, etc. So all of those things. So having that clarity is very helpful. But certain regulations are bad. Like China bans Bitcoin many times. So there's no China bans exchanges, bans mining. So there's not a whole lot to do there. So that's not good. For emerging markets, I think this technology is especially important because in Africa, the banking penetration is like 11%. Most people don't have access to financial products. It's basically that people don't have financial access. They cannot make loans from banks. They can't even do. In certain parts of Africa, it takes like a few days to do a bill payment. So now with Web3, with blockchain technology, people with their smartphone can access all these financial tools. So it's really, really important for less developed countries or regions to adopt this technology. And I actually think that this technology will be adopted faster in those regions because of the strong need for it. So whereas in countries where they have a very established financial services.
After investors withdrew more than $1 billion from Binance this last Tuesday, people are now wondering what else may be happening behind the curtains. Is Binance the next FTX?
Binance is on the investigation or this alleged investigation, etc. And then there's always, there's fraud everywhere. The block, which we now understand is pretty much owned by SBF, writes a lot of negative articles about Binance. That's okay though. So it actually makes us more resilient. And in the last couple of hours, with Sam Bankman-Fried's arrest, I think people generalize, right? So if you get hurt by one bank, you're gonna think all the other banks are bad. If one politician is corrupt, you think all politicians are corrupt. But the fact is that just because one bank is bad doesn't mean all the other banks are bad. And just because one politician is bad doesn't mean all the other politicians are bad. But people generalize. So people get hurt by one exchange, and they lost money there, and they generalize that. And that's just human behavior. So that's fine, right? So people want to withdraw their funds from Binance. Great, they can do it. It's their freedom. Later on, when they want to trade, they will deposit back. That's their freedom. So we hold cash reserves. We hold crypto reserves and cash reserves one to one. We hold user asset reserves one to one. There's no amount of FUD. There's no amount of withdrawal that will put us under pressure. So yeah, we just handle that. Mass psychology just works like that. At certain times, everybody feels the same way, and they get affected by the other people, what we call market sentiment. But today things have calmed down, and we actually today see net deposits already, and we over the last 24 hours or so, based on the chart that posted by Spider. I think there was like $66 billion of withdrawals, but there's $6.5 billion of deposits over the last 24 hours. So we're seeing the money flowing back already. So it is what it is. It's just very normal market behavior. And as an industry player, we just gotta be solid, and these things doesn't affect us. So that's that, really.
And CZ still goes on this, explaining how it was a small percentage of user funds and that it happened because of the FUD created by a couple of bad players in the social media.
I think Michael Saylor said it best. There is no second place. In a decentralized world, you're free to choose whichever platform you want to use. And most platforms are global, other than US, right? So most platforms are global. Why would you choose to use a second place exchange where yes, probably second grade security practices, second amount of investments in security teams, security infrastructure, etc. The second number of users using it, the second selection of available coins to trade on, the second reputation in the industry, etc. Why would people choose that instead of go for the first place? So look, Binance, given our scale, we're able to invest heavily on security. We have stood the test of time multiple times. We're attacked all the time by FUD, by this and that. Why doesn't people use some other thing? Because there's liquidity there. So in a free market, there is network effect. There is people moving to the first place. That naturally happens. Does that mean there's no room for somebody to innovate better? No, there's no restrictions on somebody building a better exchange. There's no restrictions on somebody building a better Uniswap or better swap. I think Pancake's trying that. A bunch of other people are trying that. When people do, those other new platforms will take over because more and more people will use those. So I think artificially forcing people to use second-tier exchanges is very bad. It's dangerous for the users. People individually will never make that decision, because people individually, if I tell you, look, go use the second-tier exchange because we want to spread things out, they won't do it, right? So is that a problem for the industry? It's not a problem, because if you want innovation, you got to let people win.
How are these guys manipulating the market and trying to collapse Binance?
People, you may get a few more followers for that tweet, but over time, your existing followers will think you are, not so good. Like you become more of a person that just spreads false information or just creates conflicts, or just post just nonsensical stuff. Over the long run, it hurts reputation, and I think people's reputation is the most valuable asset. It takes a long time to build. It can be destroyed very quickly, and people with strong reputations typically have a lot more opportunities in life. Just having a few followers doesn't give you that access. Having a lot of followers requires you to have some level of credibility. So I think there are short-term versus long-term effects. So I don't encourage people to do it. I don't think it works. It may seem that it works in the short term. Also, there are boundaries, right? So it's not black and white. Look, most people like to talk about controversial topics, debates, fights. They like to put that kind of narrative on things. Some level of that is okay, but too much of that, you're just spreading false information, or just creating fights or perception fights out of nothing. Those things are generally not good. So but look, it's a free world. People are free to do what they want to say or say what they want to say to a very large extent. But they are also hidden agendas. They also, we now understand there are media who's owned by SBF, and probably there's a lot more media who's paid by SBF to to have certain agendas that were set against Binance or other industry players, etc. And then there are people who just feel unbalanced, right? So they feel unfair because they lost money on FTX, and the other guys are still safe on Binance. People have weird psychology sometimes. And just because they are hurt themselves, they want everybody else to be in pain. There could be people losing money and just getting angry, etc. So there's a lot of different potential possibilities, there are also people who are just selling clicks and trying to sell ads, etc. So what would calm people down? If there was a magical answer, that'd be fantastic. But I think more fundamentally, look, we just gotta keep building, right? So we just gotta when the whole world is in volatility and moving around and just shaking, we just gotta be the stable guys, right? So we just gotta keep our heads down, make sure our platform is solid as possible, and make sure our system works smoothly. People can deposit, people can withdraw, people can trade. Just make sure like we do the best work we do, and we continue to develop and continue to roll out new features. That's really it. I think building is the best way to fight FUD. So that's that.
One great question that happened in the live stream, and that's probably in everyone's heads as well, is if Kevin O'Leary was ever involved with Binance, and if the Senate called CZ to testify in Washington, if he would go. Look what CZ answered.
Would not be seen as soliciting users from from the US. So that's why I try to stay out of it. And I'm also quite busy visiting many other countries. So Binance US is an independent company. It has a very strong CEO. I'm the chairman on the board, but I'm not involved in the day-to-day operations in Binance US. And they use Slack for internal work communications. I don't even have Slack installed on my phone, so I'm not involved in the day-to-day operations there at all. So I try to keep a distance so that we're very clear on the level of separation of Binance US and Binance.com. So that's the reason, really. I think we have enough coverage in the US. We have a very strong team. They build very good products. Like they offer they offer good services. So so I'm not against traveling to the US. I think US is great. I lived there for 4 years in New York and New Jersey and New York, Astoria, when I was working for Bloomberg. So I like the place, but I'm busy with other priorities. Yeah. Sure. I think NFTs is still very early. Selling JPEGs is one of the most rudimentary use cases. It's more like sending email using the internet. But there's a lot more you can do with NFTs. Sports World Cup ticketing.
And finally, with all this happening around his company, does he even have plans for 2023? Is it possible to recover from the accusations and the fear implanted in his customers?
Actually, not too much. I'm not a big grand plans kind of guy. I think, look, so strategy is very simple, right? We just got to keep building products people use and we just got to be the stable source of energy and a stable source of positive energy in the industry. Just make sure our platforms are solid. That's it really. I think that in my experience, in this type of environment, that's all it takes to be a strong player, to be a leader.
And that's it for today. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. We upload daily videos like this to help you profit from these crazy markets while protecting your money. Thank you so much for watching.